Hello and welcome to Saturday Morning Cartoons, the weekly podcast that revisits, reviews, and ridicules some of the world's weirdest animated series. Coming to you from the post-apocalyptic nightmare of 2017, I'll be your co-host Dave Trumbore. Joining me as always, it's Sean Paul Ellis. How's it going, Sean?
David. I'm doing well, buddy. How about yourself?
I'm pretty good. You saving up your bottle caps over there?
Oh my God, I am working on my lock picking.
Nice. It's a good
trying
perk.
to bump up my my computer hacking.
That's a good perk. Yeah.
And my speechcraft.
Oh, you went speechcraft. I went for small arms, some melee stuff, and what's that thing that turns you into a vampire? That one.
Oh, yeah. The one where you get powers like at night where it recharges your health.
That perk. I feel like that's a good one.
I also realized that in doing this, I think I merged Skyrim and Fallout 4's perks together from the same.
I feel like that's okay because we're gonna need.
Don't worry about it.
We're gonna need everything we can get to survive the rest of this year. Of course, we're only 2 days into it at this point because this is New Year's Nicktoons.
Oh man!
Welcome to it. This is what, the third year now?
This is the third year that we've done New Year's Nicktoons.
Yeah, which
Guys,
means that we've been doing this podcast thing,
3
for at
years.
least that long, if math is correct. We're taking deep dives into Nicktoons now, though, huh?
No, we are coming up. It'll be May. May is our 3rd year anniversary.
Sounds right.
Oh man, how time flies.
How things have changed since we were sweet summer children, simply talking about nostalgic cartoons.
This is the point, like in the Academy Awards, where they show the reel of everybody that we've lost over the past year, and it's just our case, it's just dignity, respect, sanity.
Yeah,
the classic 3.
Yeah, continence for me.
Did you say continents?
Continents and continents.
Okay.
I've lost bits of my map. I also can't walk around without wearing diapers anymore, so it's a twofer.
Little known fact: Dave likes to draw maps on the diapers that he wears,
and I've lost both of them.
He's lost them all. It makes you a really crappy cartographer. Oh,
but man. Super fun at parties. Super fun at the very specific parties that I go to where we draw maps on diapers.
What is that party going to be like? We're just like, Dave's wearing the diaper again, and it's got that dotted line trail with a giant X mark.
No, I draw it during the party. Like I wear it and I draw it at the same time, and then I auction it off for charity at the end of the night.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
Yeah, it's a fun party. You guys should come sometime. But
what charity?
All charities.
Oh, that sounds like you know what, I'm gonna bring you to task on that. What all charities?
I don't have time to list them all, unfortunately, but like literally every charity that exists gets like a fraction of a cent each year.
Just a fraction. I just really want to know that my money is going towards a good cause. So I'm looking for a reassurance in terms of my hard-earned diaper spending cash.
Yeah, your diaper art money goes to a great place. Just fractions of a cent spread across all possible charities.
I'm so nervous every time you say fractions, like you don't know what fractions are.
That's why I say it like fractions.
That you're not actually
catch myself and make sure
for this diaper
that I know what it is. No, it's when you take a penny and you cut it into like smaller pennies.
Why are you? It's illegal to destroy tender.
But I'm sending it to charity. I don't understand what the problem is. I'm cutting pennies into smaller pennies and mailing them to charities from my diaper art fund. I don't know how we got onto this slice of life here. This is what I do in my spare time. I don't know what the problem is.
This is the worst episode of This American Life that we've ever put together.
It's pretty bad. They're recording right now behind me. But
oh man, guys, we were talking about New Year's Nicktoons.
The good thing is we can write that off at the end of the year. Somehow, I don't know how that works. I just write it off. Just write it.
Just write it.
That's how tax works.
Fair enough.
So New Year's Nicktoons, we're taking a deep dive this year. I think, honestly, this year is the first time that we're getting into things that I vaguely remember but never really watched. I may have said the exact same thing last year, but I mean it 100% more this year. This stuff, especially this first thing we're going to talk about tonight, because it's kind of a variety show. It's not one specific thing that you might remember. It's literally 100 different things with like more than 50 characters. So What are we watching tonight? What are we talking about tonight?
So, let me give you a little bit of history.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Cartoons.
Oh yeah.
So,
thanks.
Oh yeah. how many times can we say, oh, yeah?
I don't know, but if you drink every time we say cartoons, you're going to be dead by the end of this episode.
Man. So, Oh Yeah Cartoons is an American animated showcase that appeared on the Nickelodeon cable channel, which was created and guided by Fred Siebert, former creative director of MTV Networks and president of Hanna-Barbera. Bill Burnett composed the show's theme music. So in terms of sheer volume, Oh Yeah Cartoons remains TV's biggest animated development program, with dozens of filmmakers having created nearly 100 7-minute cartoons totaling 54 different characters. 3 dedicated half-hour shows produced by Frederator were spun off from Oh Yeah Cartoons, which were Fairly OddParents, Chalk Zone, and My Life as a Teenage Robot.
Now, you guys might recognize one of those because we did cover it on a previous episode. Man, that was a while ago for Chalk Zone.
Yeah, that was. So we have definitely talked about Chalk Zone, but Frederator is one of my favorite groups to produce cartoons. They do Bee and Puppy Cat they've worked with, but also Steven Universe, which is probably one of my favorite cartoons that is currently on air right now, with that and Voltron. I'll say it. That and Voltron on Netflix.
Yeah, Voltron comes back for season 2 on January 20th. You guys can check that out. But yeah, definitely get caught up on the first season if you have not yet, because it is excellent.
Yes, but Frederator makes great cartoons, and they work really hard with the artists to give them the opportunities to springboard all of these fun and fantastic ideas that they have. And so really great to see that, like, you know, sort of the genesis of Frederator kind of allowing people to move forward with some of their artistic endeavors. So.
Yeah, they also have one of my favorite just like taglines, like at the end of the cartoon when they go through all the logos and stuff, that whoever produced that cartoon, what is it? Just like, what's the little icon or mascot that just yells Frederator?
That robot?
Is it robot?
Yeah, I mean, they have like a robot that's like one of their main mascots that they have.
It just yells Frederator. That always warms my heart. More so than the shows, I'll say. I'm not the biggest fan of their work, but I have not watched Steven Universe, so I really have to get into that. But as far as this stuff tonight,
and well, we've got a lot to get into and talk about, because as we said, you know, it's not like we've got such a variety of cartoons that came out of this evening, this watch, that, you know, it's fun. I kind of remember all of these shows very fondly. Really? I'll say this model of cartoon,
right,
where you had sort of like the 3 independent or the different clips, and you know, we ran into this last year even, you know,
with Kablam, right?
With Kablam,
right.
And so I remember watching Kablam a lot, and I think maybe Oh Yeah Cartoons was one of those things that, like, I again, like you mentioned, I was aware of it. I didn't really religiously watch it. It was something that maybe came like a year or 2 after I, you know, had moved, I think, to college at this point, and then found that I had the Cartoon Network.
Yeah.
And so then all of like the Johnny Bravo's Cow and Chicken.
See, now that came from the What a Cartoon Show, or the cartoons.
Exactly.
So it was the same, same kind of thing.
That was sort of like that and like Powerpuff Girls, but it was mainly because I did not have those cable channels at home in central Pennsylvania. And so the second I moved to Western Pennsylvania, they were just like, we've got all this new television for you. And I was like, I don't need to go to biology. It's at 8 o'clock in the morning. That's dumb.
That is dumb. That's cartoon watching time.
Exactly. Ugh.
So now you know the rest of the story.
So this was something that, like, you didn't get into either?
No, like I vaguely, when I watched these today, at least just this one episode and a couple of shorts that we watched here, I vaguely remember these, but the tough thing is, like we said, there were nearly 100 episodes, and most of them, the majority of them, probably 60 to 70, were just one-offs. So they were just shows that they had characters that you saw one time from one short episode, and you never saw them again. And then a lot of them that eventually got made into full-on series, they had multiple episodes here before they got into their main series. Yeah, go ahead.
And like, I really want to contend that the ones that maybe had the one-offs, there's probably a really great reason why it was a one-off.
I'm sure there are multiple great reasons.
I believe that one of those one-offs was in the triad that we watched for this one episode tonight.
Man, it really could be anything, though, because there are certain ones that you're just like, what? How? And why is this a thing? There are bits and pieces of each of them that I see potential for multiple episodes. Not necessarily a full show, but multiple episodes. There are other ones where I'm just like, how was this even like allowed to be put together and actually like produced? But we'll talk about that. We'll get into that tonight. The reason we're not going to talk about the synopses for each of these individual shows is because, like we mentioned, most of them are one-offs. And to tell you the synopsis of one episode is to tell you the whole discussion, and there's not really a point. So the shows we watched tonight were from the first season, second episode, The F-Tales, 25-Cent Trouble, and Cat and Milkman. That was all from one episode because they just partitioned them into 8-minute segments. And then I watched 2 additional segments that came from other episodes. One was called Jamal the Frog, and the other one was called Blotto. 2 very, very different styles of cartoon. All 5 of these actually have a very different style, varying degrees of weirdness, animation style, humor, everything. It's weird to see how much variety is just in these 5 things.
And it's really curious to me sometimes, if when I was watching all of these shorter cartoons that were in a 1/2 an hour block, if the reason that I stuck around for some of them is that sort of mentality of just oh, well, in 7 or 8 minutes, it might be something totally new that I might really be interested in. And so even some of the cartoons now, this is the second time I brought this up. Steven Universe, for every episode that they typically do it's somewhere around a 9 to 10 minute episode, and they'll do 2 per half an hour block.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that model of things, I'm just well, that's great, because in many cases they can tell a nugget of a story and then they can transition into something else as it escalates. And so I find that kind of storytelling sometimes very, very fun.
Yeah.
Because in many cases it seems like whoever was writing that episode, and I can't stress this enough sometimes, had a real clear idea of what they wanted to accomplish. They weren't just hey, let's put a weird thing inside of a trash can with a talking stomach and then a milkman. And you're just oh, yeah, no, that makes total sense. No, it does not make any sense whatsoever.
And we'll get into that one too, because I think there's obviously pros and cons to that. I've kind of gone back and forth on that one specifically, but it does remind me of Adventure Time. So Adventure Time is known for just having the 12-minute segments. And they do the same thing. What cracks me up about them, and it took me a while to kind of get used to it, is that they do tell this adventure that is a full arc, but sometimes they just end without any real resolution, or something just kind of ends and there's no wrap up, there's no kind of message or moral. And for us, growing up, always having a PSA or something like that, it's weird to just have that you hit a wall and then you move to the next story. So I like it. It's just a very different style, and you're starting to see that more and more. Well, I say more and more, we're going back to the mid to late 90s talking about these shows. So this was kind of an early iteration of that style.
And we should also mention that Adventure Time is a Frederator cartoon as well.
So there you go. So that's where that kind of the DNA of the Frederator approach to things kind of comes in. It's a very different style from the traditional storytelling. But before we get into the stories tonight, we've got to talk about not so much a theme song as an intro to these cartoons.
Okay.
Let's talk about things.
This struck a weird... I'm going to have to...
I felt uncomfortable.
Okay, let me say this.
Yeah.
I felt uncomfortable because so this introduction is a bunch of live action clips of kids either kind of talking about what seemed like an off-camera prompted question that they were talking about.
Like a tilted camera, they're moving documentary style.
Yeah. A lot of weird Dutch angles to try to
cams.
make. Yeah.
It's like a Jason Bourne movie.
Oh, God. So here's what freaked me out. This presumably 11, 12-year-old kid that they focused on the entire time, and I'll say this because I can empathize with him. He is a chunky kid.
He's a chubster.
And it's exactly what I looked like when I was 11 or 12 years old. And so there was a moment watching it where I was like, the fuck am I
Do you know who this kid grew up to be?
Who?
Joe Manganiello.
No way.
Totally lying, but that would be hilarious.
Son of a bitch.
That would be amazing.
You asshole.
I think he's younger
I got
than
my
us.
hopes up that I might eventually evolve into Joe Manganiello as well.
He grew up to be Sean Paul Ellis. Now, this kid's younger than us. But they did focus on this one kind of chubby kid. And he's just delightfully weird. There's nothing.
Let's just call him Sean Jr.
Sean Jr.
Right? Sean Jr.
That you had when you were 15.
This kid, well, no, I mean, just no. Well, I mean,
and he was 11.
Yeah, well,
I'm more uncomfortable now than before.
Let's just say Sean Clone if Sean Jr. is making you that uncomfortable.
I'll call him Shango Fett. How do you like that?
Oh, I like that a lot.
Like Shango Fett?
That is fantastic.
There you go.
So little Shango, he seemed so uncomfortable but very excited to be sort of the focus.
Yeah.
And I loved that. His earnestness about some of these segments was so genuine that like I was kind of watching it with a tear in my eye, like, oh Shango, you do this for me. I love you so much, you little dude. Look at you. Like he really, I'll say, as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
from that age and that period of time,
Mm-hmm.
if somebody would have been like, hey, I want you to do something and I want you to be on camera and it's going to spotlight you, that would have been like no, don't make those eyes at me like this is getting creepy sexual, because it's not.
I'm still
and you
uncomfortable.
Did. But I feel like this is a confidence boost that if I had gotten this in the 90s, I would have been like, you know what? Go me.
Yeah.
Like, go me. Yeah.
No,
Look at
it was a weird choice, but it sets up the fact that this is going to be a weird cartoon program. Because it's not just this one kid. I mean, he's the focus of the interstitials, but the main intro is just like a bunch of kids in very, very 90s, late 90s attire. So a lot of like, for whatever reason, overalls. I don't know why there was a lot of like bib overalls going on. A lot of like big
late 90s fashion.
Late 90s
the fuck were you thinking?
But this was like washed out. Like it wasn't even colorful like late 90s fashion was.
Yeah.
It's like weirdly grayed out or just washed out. And I don't know why. But it just shows a bunch of different kids just saying random things kind of related to cartoons.
But they're not.
But they're not.
That's what was so nerve-wracking about this, is because I was trying to figure out who the hell was the audience, because we're originally met with Shango Fett.
Yeah.
And Shango Fett says, he's like, watching a cartoon is not that difficult. And I was like, who's second guessing you?
Why is this a question?
Why is this a conspiracy theory now?
You heard it here first. Cartoons are difficult to watch and listen to, which is why you have to come to us to tell you what to think.
He goes through this whole process. He's like, you just get a bowl of cereal. And I'm like, yeah, I'm on board. He's you go to a couch.
Done. I've got
like,
one of those.
Yeah. He's like, you sit down in front of it. I'm like, yeah, all right. Well, that's how I relax.
Yeah.
Cool. He's like, and then you turn it on and you just watch. And I'm just like, why did you have to turn that into a late 90s listicle for me to understand?
That was the thing, man. So that's the intro to these things. It's like, that is what this thing is about. And I love it. And I'd love to see little Shango's mind with like today's technology about having to like access different things to find the actual cartoon, because it's much harder than it used to be. But I love, can we talk about his other interstitial that he gets in a little bit here?
Yes, let's do it.
Do you have what he, straight up what he says? Because this one just focuses like right on him.
Cartoons don't have taste. You can't eat them. You can't smell them. They've got no BO.
Just watch them.
They got no body odor. I'm like,
he said, just watch them.
Who is in the late 90s trying to rub a stick of Old Spice on the side of their cathode ray television? They're just like, oh man, I hope this cartoon doesn't stink. Like, this has gotta fix this problem ahead of time.
You just watch them.
Just watch them. Who is he explaining this
Terry
to?
Crews probably would try that.
Who who is the captive audience that was like, oh, I've been cartooning wrong for so fucking long?
I think it's just got to be like the Frederator thing, where it's just like adults are weird, but it's funny when kids say weird things like that. So I don't know. It's either a bunch of weird kids who thought that this stuff was funny, so they just said it, or it's a bunch of weird adults who thought it would be funny to hear kids say it.
You see, kids say the darndest things, Dave. We got to make sure that they say it on the film.
No.
Did you get the last little Shango Fett nugget that he drops in later?
No, I didn't. I missed that one.
So the third,
it's catatonic at this point.
Oh God, yeah. The third interstitial that they have is a bunch of kids saying like onomatopoeias. They're like boom, pow, smash. Like, it's sort of, 1960s Batman style. They're doing these things, and then it's little Shango Fett, and he just goes, yeah, like a cartoon, like a little hamster that does everything like a dog.
Yeah.
And then it just blacks out.
Yeah.
Like, oh.
I wonder if they just like asked them random questions and then took like the most out of context things that they said and cut that. That makes sense to me.
Well, because what was the question? They were like, how do you want to die? And he's like, a little hamster that does everything like a dog. And you're like, what? That's confusing.
That's probably what it is. I like that your made up question to his weird answer is weirder than his weird answer. How do you want to die, Shango? In battle?
How do all the nuns at the orphanage treat you, Shango? a little like a hamster that does everything like a dog. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, got it.
I'm on board with that.
Back in your wooden box, we got to ship you back to the nunnery. So that's what we've got going on in between these cartoons. So you've got cartoons broken up with live action weirdness, right? That should prepare you for what you're about to get into with these cartoons. You want to start with F-Tails? You want to start at the top?
Start with F-Tails. So F-Tails.
Yeah, good.
The episode for F-Tails is titled "The Sky Is Falling."
Right.
And so this was super fun, and I did not expect this because this started out like an X-Files.
It's 100% a riff on X-Files,
which I was not expecting.
Right.
I did not think that it was coming, but I loved we had our Scully in this is a fox,
which is funny because in X-Files it's Fox Mulder.
And she's a total fox.
She's a total fox. She's an actual literal fox this time.
She's a literal fox.
Yeah.
Did you
in like an
FBI
name? Like get up, like the suit, the G-Men.
And she's sort of in the same procedural kind of like scientific note-taking fashion like Scully is typing everything down.
Yeah, and she's same delivery, same kind of like deadpan,
same cadence,
matter of fact cadence. Yeah,
like I loved it. And then she's she explains to you and sets up all of the exposition that you need to jump right into this episode.
Yeah.
Like without any questions whatsoever. I'm sitting here watching this and I'm just like, oh, this is a really fun little spoof and take on this. I was like, I wonder what else they're gonna do. And then they pan over to her partner, Chicken Little.
Old Chick Little.
And reveals that he is concerned that the sky is falling, and that
he's concerned. Yeah, he's concerned that the sky is falling because they are heading to the house of Mr. Pig, which has collapsed, and he thinks that it's because the sky fell. And go ahead, you were going to talk about their mode of conveyance.
Well, no, I mean, so they like that is his concern, and he has this whole conspiracy theory, very Mulder-ish, of him to kind of have hunkered down on this fun, crazy idea. And you realize, like, as they pan back to show the mode of transportation that they're in, it's a station wagon that has a giant umbrella on top of it, like this Mary Poppins mobile that they're driving around in. Like it's funny, like it's enjoyable to see.
Yeah, and she even says, like, she makes mention of it. And she's like, we're the laughing stock of the agency because we're driving around with this friggin' thing.
Right.
But
so it's it's great. And so you get to the pigs.
His first house. What was his house made out of, though?
Oh man, was it made out of hay?
I feel like it was made out of straw. His house was made of straw.
So immediately, if in any way, shape, or form you've ever read any fable or story, like when you were a kid, like that they're kind of like they've taken something from X-Files, like something relevant and modern at that point, and they're having fun with it, and then they're taking something that's a little bit more traditional with Three Pigs.
Well, and Chicken Little too. Yeah. So they've taken
and Chicken Little
things. And what I really love about these variety of the cartoons is they do all these throwbacks to the older style of cartoons. The old Merry Melodies, the old Looney Tunes. We've seen, the Big Bad Wolf and the Three Little Pigs. I loved the old one, 30s or 40s, where it's like the jazzy Three Little Pigs. The whole thing is like set to like a jazz song. Like it's a jazz music, and like they're in the club at the end of it, and like that's a fantastic cartoon. And I feel like parts of this are like nods back to that, or just similar ones that took that same story and animated it. But they find little ways to have like bizarre little jokes in here, and you're constantly questioning the sanity of pretty much everybody involved, but mostly Chick Little.
Because we get this moment where Chick Little so they get to the house made of straw and hay, and Chick Little immediately begins to so we have the fox who is she's investigating, and we have Chick Little who with his little beak is pecking at the remains of this house, which again, like, knowing what we all know about chickens, I'm just like, well, this is a fun way to be able to communicate the fact that he is an anthropomorphic chicken in this moment. To which then there's this fun response of just like, Little, are you feeding on the evidence?
Yeah.
To which his response is genius, because this is such a fun world that they create now, is that he's like, I've trained my beak to be able to identify things that are in the evidence. And she's like, that's a cockroach on your tongue. And I like,
yeah, he specifically says, like, I've trained my beak to find evidence of fallen sky, which is a fucking weird thing. Like, to train it for evidence is like, okay, bloodhound, whatever. But for fallen sky means nothing. And then I love how she flips it back on him when he finds a crushed cockroach just hanging out the end of his beak or his tongue. But the creepy thing was when they found the dude, Mr. Pig, who's hanging out underneath the straw because he's been crushed by a pile of straw from his house.
Right.
He's not in great shape.
No, he's not. And he's just making like, it's that it's almost a conspiracy theorist's dream for 2 seconds because he's like sky.
Are you saying sky? Sky is falling? Sky?
Scott.
No, not Scott. You meant to say sky.
Scott. My brother Scott.
No, don't listen to him. He means sky. He means that the sky is falling.
Nah. Talk about Scott.
We talk about Scott.
I'm being coy and talking about Scott.
So who's Scott? Tell me about Scott. What's Scott have to do with anything?
Turns out that Scott is his brother.
Oh yeah, his brother Pig. So like a second little pig.
Yeah, a second little pig.
I feel like he probably lives in a house, but not made of straw.
It's probably made of sticks.
You think it's made of sticks? What's one thing you can? Okay, so you can build a house with sticks. What's another thing you can do with sticks?
You can throw them.
you can fire them from a bow and arrow, like an archery bow, at the FBI when they come calling to your house.
Yeah. So they arrive on the scene and they are immediately attacked.
Yeah.
And
it was a great little shootout, though.
Yeah, they have this like fun little shootout to the point where then suddenly Little is just like, "Follow me, Fox," and they do this like fun mad dash towards the house where they are like ducking and jumping over everything, including the kitchen sink.
It was like watching like Mario Run or something, like watching a side scroller as you dodge stuff.
Except at no point in time did it prompt you to pay $9.99 for a game that you don't really want to buy.
That's true. Yeah, there's no Candy Crush buy-ins.
Yeah,
you pay to win.
So they get all the way up to the door, and then they have, as you were mentioning, this fun little like, run where they're getting up there. Now they have this fun little fight.
Yeah.
We have a fun little shootout, fun little run, fun little fight inside of the thing, and it's very comical. It's very enjoyable, especially when suddenly, oh no, we get this big windstorm that's coming in. Where did this windstorm come from?
I don't know. Conspiracy, big giant windstorm machine to attack the government. I love the way that they use this in the fight, though, because they use the wind blowing in from the side to do a whole bunch of gags in a very short amount of time.
So much. It was so enjoyable.
So like Scott throws, I don't know, he throws like a barbell at Agent Fox to try to like knock her out, but it ends up getting caught by the wind and coming back and knocking him out. So she just like holds up her handcuffs in the air and just tosses him into the wind, and they attach right to his hands, so he's tied up. Just great, like really, really smart humor with stuff like that. It was just simple and fun. They had a really good time with it.
And I love that when they explain to him, when they ask him, they're like, "Why did you attack us?" And he's like, "I've been awake for 3 days, and I thought you were him." Yeah. And you were just like, "What?" Because we see a shadowy figure as they leave the First Brothers' house.
Well, and he looks at the fox too, and they have this kind of like overdub of a wolf silhouette over her face.
And so now in this second, we sort of see who this shadowy figure actually is. This big bad wolf.
Oh, I never would have guessed.
And so they're just like, "Oh man, guess what? We have a third brother.
His name's Percy Pig."
Percy, I hate to admit it, is probably closer to my style of a pig. He is very particular and he is very clean.
Oh, so if you were a pig, you would be Percy.
I mean, I am a pig. So
I feel bad we never got to learn about Mr. Pig. We don't even know his first name. We just know that he's crazy at this point.
Yeah, he's just insane. Yeah. So we get Percy there. He is he's very particular and he is very annoyed at his two younger brothers because he's saying like, "Look, this every year the same thing happens. Same thing happens. All right. Fox gets released, or this big bad wolf gets released. And then we call the cops and he gets arrested and they throw him right back in jail and then they release him the next year." Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what is he being like? Is it assault charges? If that's the case, it seems like he's a repeat offender, and it seems like a 3-strike you're out kind of policy.
Well, I don't know if they're in California, but I feel like the house destruction thing probably carries a fairly steep penalty because he gets out of prison, he blows over his first brother's house, he blows over his second brother's house, and then he exhausts himself at the brick house. And Percy keeps saying his idiot brothers, they're welcome to stay with him, but they don't want to. At which point he yells at one of them to use a coaster.
Yeah.
Because they're like putting their drink directly on the table. Use a coaster.
I've done that before.
But it's hilarious because it just tells you what kind of person this little guy is. However, there's a twist this year. The wolf is not outside.
He's inside
the call is coming from inside the house.
Mother Goose! Which is such a great exclamation to scream when the bad guy finally reveals himself. It's just, Mother Goose!
Of all the exclamations in these shows, that's the best one. The worst one is catastrophic, and we'll get to that in a little bit.
It's Jesus Christ.
Okay, so now the wolf is loose among the pigs, right? But he's also loose among the chickens.
He's also loose among quoting from shit that's in A Few Good Men references.
What? He was?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Because immediately, they just go, he pops out of this chimney and he goes, you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. Which, if you're a parent and you're watching this with your kid, what a nice little subtle nod to just be like, we're making jokes. Jokes that you can you can understand that reference.
Because you're stuck here with these little idiot spawn of yours and you got to watch this crap. We're going to give you something.
Not little Shango Fett. He's loving it.
They don't smell. You just watch them. All right, so now we've got a cool little chase sequence, right? Because the big bad wolf no longer cares about pork. He's hankering for some fried chicken. So keep in mind that Chick Little is still here. He's still been spewing his sky is falling conspiracy theory this entire time, and he continues to do so as the wolf goes after him. So as the wolf goes after him, they're making a mess in this house. They're breaking all kinds of stuff. They're knocking everything over. How does Percy respond to this?
Percy responds with a karate chop and a kick.
Yeah.
And just knocks this fucking big bad wolf right out. Which is great because you know what? For somebody who's so mild-mannered and is so particular about everything, all of a sudden to have him play a real masculine, powerful role, you're just like, well, this is a fun juxtaposition that maybe as a kid, nobody really saw coming.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just because the way it triggered him to get to that point was really funny. And then they twist it on you again because you think, they've called the cops. When they show up, they're just going to arrest the big bad wolf and they're going to take him away and, happily ever after. Except at this point, Chick Little is still freaking out to the point that he's still convinced that the sky is falling. Still thinks everything that has happened has nothing to do with the wolf and that the sky is falling is a conspiracy. So when the
sky's fallen, we did not land on the moon, and it just all these different things. All these different conspiracies. You just you start thinking in his head, and you're just like, oh no, this could be so much fun to play with in a cartoon.
Yeah, which is exactly what happens. Because then the cops show up and they're like, we had a call. We're here to arrest a maniac.
And everybody one by one points their finger at Chick Little.
That means the partner, the three pigs, and the wolf who's laid out on the floor. They all point over at Chick Little, and the cops just haul him out without asking any more questions. And that would have been funny enough right there. But they still do something else. They actually do two more things that I found hilarious.
Yes, they do. They do.
So all the people left in the house are just like, you want to go out for some coffee? Like, yeah, that sounds great. Another person's like, I can go for some apple pie. And then I think the wolf says, or some bacon and eggs. To which point Scott says,
he goes, bacon and eggs. That sounds good.
Which is fucked up.
I wrote it here. I was just like, wait, are they implying that pigs are cannibals in this sense?
I guess Scott is.
But we're not done with the episode yet.
We're not done with the episode because what happens?
What more? A piece of sky actually falls on Percy's house and destroys it.
Crushes the brick house. This was really good. This was the best one of the 5 I think that I watched. It was a solid satire of a bunch of different things. They never missed an opportunity for a joke, and it was really smart.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah, 100%. The writing on this was extremely intelligent. The style was very aesthetically pleasing to watch, kind of big, thick, bold lines to outline the characters, just everything from the comedy and the humor that was in here to the things that they spoofed. It felt like they used every part of the buffalo in this 8-minute clip. So very satisfying to watch.
Nicely done. Now this next one's a little bit different. I didn't have a problem with it. I thought it was cute. I thought it was imaginative. It was just kind of a one-note thing. They had an idea and they went with it, and that was about it.
So from a performance standpoint, I can see why they did what they did, because what they create a game. They create a game very early on in terms of what this is, and then just they sought to go down the pattern of saying what could be worse.
Yeah, they just ramp it up as they go.
And so they escalate everything pretty quickly to a point. But there were like one or two things in this that irked me. Otherwise, this was still pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, it was fun. Now, the previous
You know?
one, the F-Tales, I could see as a series.
Yes.
This one, I don't know. I could kind of see it as a series, just not as strongly. You know, like if it was a choice between these two, I'd probably go F-Tales and say not this one. But
Yeah.
so anyway, we're talking
agree.
25-cent tale.
Right.
And the reason it's called 25-cent tale is because we're introduced to Teddy, who's this little kid, little toddler, and Art, who's his dog. And his dog's, it's kind of like Snoopy, maybe a little more dog-like and a little less anthropomorphic. I had a tough time kind of drawing a parallel.
Yeah, really kind of like a derpy pooch.
Yeah, but he's smarter than the kid, I think. But he's not like wearing a watch or like talking to the camera or he's a pretty smart dog, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I think he's very loyal, and I think he's very loving.
Yes, very loyal and loving, but definitely like more dog-like than human-like. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're hanging out at the grocery store shopping with their mom, and they basically get away from the mom for a little bit, and the kid.
Well, she ushers them away
because
she's like, go pick out some cereal. Yeah. Go pick out some cereal. And I'm just like,
because they're about to upend the cart too, and they're messing everything up. So she just sends them out of the way. She's probably hitting on the produce
with all that horseplay that they got going on.
All that horseplay. So as the dog is as Art is on the ground, he's kind of like making a commotion. Teddy sees a quarter on the floor. So what would you do if you were given a quarter in the grocery store when you were a kid?
I would create a catchphrase that made me want to murder myself by the end of this episode.
What would it be?
It'd be catastrophic.
Catastrophic.
Be catastrophic, but then I would come up with clever ways to be able to say catastrophic, like catastrophical.
If you're a toddler, it's pretty smart.
It's not, though.
If you're an adult writing for a toddler.
Because finding a quarter is not catastrophic.
No, nothing
That's
about this
fortuitous.
Yeah.
You fucker.
You fucking toddler.
Understand how money works, Teddy.
Okay, what would you actually do if I gave you a quarter as a toddler in a grocery store?
Oh man, I'd 100% go to that area where they had the 25 cent or even the 50 cent.
Ooh.
When they introduced those 50 cent ones, I was like, there better be. It was always like the sticky hand.
Sticky hand or the giant jumbo gumballs.
Oh, those were so good.
The tattoo packs. Yep.
The sticky hand was my favorite because I would go into the area of my mom's house that had a high ceiling and just throw it up on top of the wall.
So you just ceiling covered in sticky hands. I used to wait until my brother or somebody was doing homework, and then I'd whip it out and grab the paper off of the desk, and then usually rip it in half unintentionally and get in trouble.
But yeah, it was always those little bubble machines that they had. That you put a quarter in, turn the crank, and the little bubble would pop down with the toy that was inside of it.
And think about how like germophobic everybody is today. Which whatever. You used to just take like handfuls of loose candy out of these machines for a quarter. Just handfuls of Skittles.
I don't know if you have seen these things as of late, but when I return sometimes to Pennsylvania, and I go into like older grocery stores that I haven't
like mom
been
and pop
into,
shops or something.
Yeah. Like ones that like I thought like, oh, maybe this is like when we were in college, we had a place called Giant Eagle. And Giant Eagle was a franchise of grocery stores all around Western Pennsylvania. But then I go back to Central Pennsylvania, and there's just like this one place that's called Fox's. And like Fox's has a couple locations, but like they're a much older company. Like, and I don't know that I haven't been in them in a while, but the last time I know that I was in there, they had like loose chiclets in one of the things, but it was like a dime, and I was like, oh.
And coincidentally, the last time they cleaned that chiclet machine was when you were there as a child.
Jesus Christ.
Those things are so gross.
A 36-year-old chiclet that nobody fucking wants.
Yeah. Still a dime, though. Okay, so this is all to say that this kid, he goes and he looks at a variety of these kind of like bubble machines. I don't even remember what the first two were, but he's
one was like Super Goop.
Super Goop was the first one.
It was like Super Goo, and then another one was like it was like a bounce ball.
That's what I would have totally gotten a Super Ball.
That's what I used to get.
Yeah.
I used to get bounce balls because there was always that opportunity where you could get the normal ones that were just like a grape, but then you could get the other ones that were like a clementine that were fucking huge. Oh man,
fucking huge.
The fucking huge.
But now this kid goes for an action robot toy, which looks super lame when it comes out of the bubble.
Yeah.
It's just like this old school, old fashioned, boxy kind of robot looking thing. And you're like, all right, sure. He's got an
You gotta
imagination.
think, like, you have to think though, for like 25 cents, like, what are your expectations for this? Like, you're not gonna
Well, in
get like a full on.
1998,
You're not gonna get a full on AI, Terminator robot coming out of
I
this
could have got a
shit.
quart of gasoline for 25 cents back in 1998. Not anymore. I could have got a handful of chiclets. I could have got two handfuls of chiclets.
Two handfuls of chiclets.
Or an action robot. So this was kind of cool. This is where I started to have fun with this one. Because basically Art the dog just wants to play with his buddy. Like they just want to play and have fun. But now Teddy's got this little action robot and he's like, well, okay, we're going to let this thing kind of like march around and I've got lasers and blah, blah, blah. The cool thing is it actually starts to kind of like go through these stages of evolution. So it's like its arms grow a little longer and its head kind of pops up a little bit and it's got these little lasers that shoot out and they kind of zap Art in the nose. And that sets up what Sean was talking about with this game where Art wants to entertain Teddy, but the robot wants to kind of protect Teddy / just kind of get the dog away. He wants to be the star of the show. It's kind of this back and forth.
It becomes this like it's this game of one-upsmanship between like the dog will do something, Art will do something that is seen as being genuine and entertaining. The robot's response to it is to adapt to that situation and then destroy whatever Art is doing. As like he continues to evolve into a bigger and a bigger robot. So it's like it's easy, and you can see the trajectory, from like the first like 1 to 2 evolutions. You're just like, oh, okay, I now understand and I can see the setup of everything where this is going.
Yeah, there weren't really, that was really the only surprise where it was like, oh, this robot kind of goes through these stages of evolution where like it gets a little bigger and then it fires a rocket and then it becomes like this little hover bot and it can kind of move and carry Teddy around. Then it becomes kind of like man-sized and then super-sized. And Spider-Bot was pretty cool. So, they definitely had some fun with that. And Art is just kind of the old school classic kind of like he's juggling, he's, catching oranges in his mouth and making a goofy smile. And
is that a dog thing? Do dogs put oranges in their mouths and are just like, see what I'm doing? The old orange in the mouth trick.
I just remember that from Godfather where he scares the shit out of his little granddaughter or grandniece, whatever she was. Where he puts the orange slice in that just goes, then he has a heart attack. Spoiler alert.
And Luca Brasi dies. So, there's a lot. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on.
Gonna go to the mattresses.
It gets to the point where where suddenly the robot is broken outside of the supermarket.
Yes, because he's huge at this point. He's like Voltron sized, like massive. Huge. He's huge.
So we get robot marching out through the parking lot. Art, our dog friend, finds another quarter.
I think it actually shook that quarter loose somehow. That was my interpretation. Because he was like stomping around and destroying everything, and it like shook the quarter loose out of the machine.
And he goes outside to one of those little like ride-on like machines that's always outside.
Janky.
One of those like I've always saw that it was like a plane or a train or like a rocket ship that was always out there.
Like rocket ship, I think of.
So like he goes out and he gets in a helicopter and puts a quarter in. Helicopter breaks off from everything that's there and begins in real life. And begins to like, travel up towards the robot, and then he shoots a missile and it blows the robot up. And that's what it is.
Well, then he rescues because Teddy's falling at this point. So he rescues Teddy with a little parachute, and it's cool. They're all pals again, and Mom comes out and she says, "All right, boys, it's time for lunch," and everybody back in the van. Now, it was kind of funny because the van had a giant robot head on the top of it that had like crushed the top of the van a little bit.
So this is my question though, did all of this take place in the imagination, in a shared imaginative space between Teddy and Art?
Right.
Or did this really actually happen?
And just none of the adults cared.
Yeah, because there's zero reaction in this world regarding what any of the parents are doing or any of the actual adults that are floating around this grocery store doing shit. Nobody seems to care about anything that's going on, and I think if this is something that's happening in that shared imaginative space and that's it, I really like that.
Yeah, I do
really
too.
I really like how that functions, where they're able to kind of have something that's like, this is a Teddy and Art thing,
Right.
and like nobody, sort of like a Calvin and Hobbes
Exactly.
almost.
Except
And so,
hopefully
like,
Art's like a real dog.
no, he's a stuffed dog. It's not like a stuffed animal dog. Like, it's a dog that was alive, and then they had it stuffed.
Took it to the taxidermist.
Yeah. Yep.
Makes sense. The kid's not fucked up at all.
Yeah. 100%. See how this could be a legit
Look,
show.
I think it's probably the shared imagination space because there is no reaction from the adults, and then the stinger that they use to kind of close it is that the mom says, "Look, you boys are too busy screwing around. I had to go get your own cereal, so I hope you like it. Because too bad you're gonna eat it or go hungry, you little punk." She doesn't actually say any of that. That was just from my own childhood. So they like pull the cereal box out and they look at it, and at the bottom it says, every box has a little alien creature inside, and Art kind of looks at it and he's like, "Son of a bitch."
I love that because I didn't think that like you could actually have a dog just do like a deep sigh, but I mean in this you managed to get a dog that just went. Oh.
It was good.
Yeah,
Wes Anderson actually has a new stop motion movie called Isle of Dogs.
I saw,
and
yeah.
You can voice one of the dogs. And that was a really good dog you just did, so I think you should check it out.
Oh, that was part of my audition tape. So.
Excellent, nice.
Wes Anderson, let's talk.
Send it in, you quirky bastard. All right, let's move on to Cat and Milkman.
Oh, my final thing I was going to say about this is that I thought that this was enjoyable except for the catchphrase.
Yeah, it was the only thing.
If they had just removed this fucking catchphrase, it would have been such a fun cartoon. But to say catastrophic every time, like, and things were happening that were not catastrophic. In fact, nothing that happened in this entire cartoon was in any way, shape, or form fucking catastrophic. And so, like, it made me think to myself, I was like, oh no, does Teddy have like a learning disability? Or is it like one of those things where you hear a word when you're younger and you just like,
repeat it for whatever
you say it over and over and over again.
I'm sure it was
and I
that.
was like, but I mean, in this case, it's not a kid. Like, somebody deliberately wrote this, and it was bad. Like, somebody wrote bad dialogue for this poor kid.
I still think it was a throwback to, like, I can't think of them anymore. Like, I was thinking Fantastic Max for some reason.
Mighty Max?
No. Fantastic Max. Like a kid in a diaper with a mohawk who, like, flies through space. Do you remember that? Fantastic Max? We'll have to cover that sometime, because that's a thing that exists, and it's probably weirder than I remember.
Nice.
But I feel like those kind of like youthful protagonists like that, they couldn't say a lot because their age kind of like prevented them until Rugrats came around. They were never old enough or allowed to be old enough to have actual dialogue. Like, Rugrats were the first ones that had kind of like somewhat adult conversations as babies, whereas everything else that was a young kid was written with the dialogue of a young kid. So they'd gravitate to like one word, and that was their catchphrase, and that was it, and that's all you got. So I don't know if it was tongue-in-cheek or if it's something that maybe their kid said or if it's just a bad choice. But yeah, that was irritating. But the rest of it was cute and fun.
All right.
You good for Cat and Milkman now?
Oh, man, let's get into this.
I need to like take some kind of drug first. I don't know which one.
All right.
All of them, maybe.
I'll put it to you this way. You can't bat 1,000.
No, you really can't. We've been pretty good so far.
You really can't fucking
2 out of 3 ain't bad. This was just a fever dream, man. I mean, from the get-go.
I just want to I want to understand what world in the late 90s are animators and cartoonists still just like, you know what kids will relate to? Glass milk bottle delivery. 100%. You know what? Kids of the 90s with their Walkmans and their AOL and their 400 free minutes when they sign up today, like, they're totally going to relate to like small town milk truck delivery
Kids
services.
of the 90s with their sticky hands and hands full of chiclets are going to love the Milkman. Or this unrecognizable cat creature. What the fuck was this thing? It didn't look like a cat. It looked like a shaved monkey.
Oh my God. I wrote down, so this was the challenge, is that every time something happened with this creature that was in here, it made a different noise and I added a different thing. So this went from monkey dog for me to what was it? It was monkey cat dog to monkey cat dog dolphin. I hate it.
Yeah, to just the worst thing.
To just go fuck yourself.
I like that it started with what it took me a while to figure out was its stomach, because it looked like its own swollen anus was talking to it. I couldn't tell what this thing was. It was like a puckered little starfish with a mouth. And Sean just and it was talking. I didn't know what was happening. I thought it was a close up of his butt. I mean, it wasn't technically wrong. I mean, it was super close up. It was just happened to be his stomach that was rumbling and telling him to please find me some food in these trash cans, you scumbag.
So like, here's the challenge with all of this is that zoom in technique of just like highlighting a certain area on a cartoon. Yeah. And then sort of anthropomorphizing or giving it its own or like personifying it. Like, I find that super, super enjoyable.
Usually.
And thank you. Yeah. That's the key word. Usually, in this instance, I never got weird anus from it. I super like got weird anus. You do super have weird anus. Yeah. And so it was, you can buy, Dave has a super weird anus t-shirts, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com.
Yeah, and there's a link to my...
Click on our shop.
Yeah, there's a link to my artwork diaper page, too. For incontinence.
Oh, but man, like, it could not have been like a weirder way to start a cartoon, was just to have a monkey dog that doesn't speak like actual words other than like primal screams, to then have a talking English stomach / weird anus being just like being like, hey, I could use some food here.
Not there. Like, check the other one.
There. Check the other can.
My whole first paragraph of notes on this thing is mostly question marks. It's just like a cat question mark thing. Like, I don't know what this thing is. Terrible drawing. But anyway, the gist of this story is the cat is searching for food and it's hungry, and its anus / stomach wants to be full. That's so gross. The cat is hungry and it wants to eat. So at some point, we're introduced to this like milk truck that's just like driving around, and I think the cat, for whatever reason, just like throws a trash can lid, turns it into like a discus, right?
Yeah.
And it basically
to which then Jerry Lewis was just
shows
like,
up. Yeah.
Jerry Lewis as the milkman gets really concerned because he's just like, oh my god, an unidentified flying object.
Yeah, Jerry Lewis circa 1965.
Yeah, it was bad.
Real bad.
It's a bad impression. You should feel like, I just to give you guys, so as Dave mentioned, I just want to give everybody like an idea of what the dialogue is and how bad it is in this cartoon. So trash can lid gets thrown. All right. It hits this milk truck in the windshield because the driver mistakes a trash can lid for a UFO and pulls out a Polaroid camera to take photos of said unidentified flying object.
Makes sense.
In the process, almost crashes his entire milk truck, and almost kills this weird animal, which I contend would have made this cartoon 1,000 times better.
If he just murdered it
if we had just
first.
wrapped it up within the first like minute. But then so Jerry Lewis gets out of the truck and he goes, "Oh, sorry, I scared you. Did you see the spaceman that made my milk truck go cuckoo nuts?" Like,
I checked out at this point.
I just went, fuck.
There was so much just frenetic energy and back and forth and stuff that didn't really seem to connect to each other that I honestly like. I can't give you a play-by-play. I just kind of checked out. There was one or two funny lines or interactions for me, but it was mostly just kind of like this weird cat and mouse chase, because the cat is now chasing the milkman to try to get the milk, but the milkman's trying to deliver the milk and keep the cat from getting it, and it's just like, why is this the thing? Like, I get the idea of it. The execution was just pretty bad. It was really strange. Yeah. I do like that they interacted with like various people in the neighborhood that were super bizarre, and like they were almost out of like Rocko's Modern Life. Like that level of absurdity.
The thing that was really, so I don't know, whenever you download audio software, like if everybody has GarageBand, or if you get like Audition or like Logic X, for all of these different things, they typically will download and install like a library of sound effects and different Foley that you can use. this cartoon sounded like somebody discovered that on their computer, like where that cache of all these SFX were located, and was just like, oh man,
Let's use
just
them
got that
all.
classic, that porpoise noise that I've been dying to get, and oh man,
Can't
and
wait
we've
to
got
use it
all
in
these,
Cat and Milkman.
yeah, we've got all these things that we can use in this, so can't wait. This will be great. It seemed like a master student, like an art school's like students like master thesis that they were presenting, that somebody would have been like, yeah, you know
Let's
what,
dial that back a little bit.
we're just gonna fail you ahead of time because this is, oh no, Nickelodeon picked it up. Son of a bitch.
Well, the good news is
This
they
is
didn't
not-
actually pick it up. As far as I know, this is the once and only Cat and Milkman. Look, I found a couple funny scenes. One was, for whatever reason, the dude's, I think his hand is like in the cat's mouth. I think he had his hand on the bottle and the cat like bit around his hand.
Yeah.
And then his hand or something in his mouth screams, gingivitis. Ah!
Yeah.
Just like, okay. I'm all right with that, I guess. That's kind of a funny thing.
Because 30 seconds after
Yeah.
that, they're both like jumping towards the truck in that like kind of slow motion. And they use that like $6 million man, like that. And again, it's like somebody was like, oh man, I can't wait. It's as if they had all the sound effects and they were just like, man, we should create a cartoon, right? Like,
Just
we don't need to write a
around
story.
sound effects.
Guys, we have all this sound effects. What are we going to do with it?
We can't waste it. We got to use them all.
No! This is a trial. We've got 30 days to use it all.
And they did.
Stop
Moral
it.
of the story, they did.
Close your laptop and then just put a bullet in it.
And look, there were moments here. So like the super patriotic dude and the wife beater was funny, aggressively funny. The old lady was not super funny, but like,
a man in uniform.
and the like close up on her
Yeah.
varicose veins was a little much, but it's just bizarre. There's just a lot of strange stuff that goes on. And honestly, like, eventually the milkman gets injured. I love the scene right before he gets hit by the car.
When he gets injured. I love when he gets injured.
Right before he gets hit by the car the first time, his life flashes before his eyes. And it's the saddest life I think you're probably likely to see ever.
He's playing limbo.
He's a young man with curly mop of red hair just playing limbo. That's it.
That's it. Bummer.
That's it. Little Sean go. It's his best moment.
Hmm.
Sad times. But he's fine. He doesn't actually get hit by the car. However, it does land on him from above.
Again, we've had like, it could have, we almost had Milkman hit the cat, and then we almost had the cat just kill the milkman. Like, we could have wrapped up this cartoon twice.
Oh, it happens like multiple times too. It's just
We had
constant.
so many opportunities.
Ugh. So anyway, at this point, the medic takes the milkman into the hospital, and I love that the doctor is talking to Mrs. Milkman.
Yeah, but it's his
But
mom.
it's his mom. So I guess he is the milkman's son? Is that the whole joke they were trying to set up? If so, it's even worse. But anyway, as the milkman like wakes up and kind of looks and sees his mom sitting there waiting, the cat is just hanging out with his mom, like on her shoulder. So then he just freaks out and bounces around like Daffy Duck in hunting season and just takes off out of the hospital. And that's it. That's all you see. It's a waste of time.
Oh, man.
Is there anything else you had for that one?
Nah, hated it.
All right, fair enough. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. All right, real quick, you want to know about... so at the end of this episode, they did a brief teaser for what was coming up in the next episode.
I loved that. I loved they did it coming soon.
Yeah.
Like, that was so fun.
That was cool. And they didn't lie to you either. They actually showed you the next thing that was going to show up. So the next thing that showed up was called Jamal the Funny Frog. This was so weird. Like, the animation style was... It had that classic feel. It's like an old school, like a 40s cartoon. It had animated like furniture that had faces. Like there was a bed that had like a smile, and it would kind of like make itself for you. Like if you threw the sheet to the side, it would grab the sheet and like make the bed for it. The sun had a face. The sponges had a face. Music notes had faces. All that stuff had faces, but the characters and their designs are super gross. Like everything is super gross. Everything's got like yellow teeth. They got hairy ass bodies and warts all over them. They're really gnarly looking creatures, but they're drawn in that kind of like classic animated way. Super creepy. Anyway, the crux of this story is it's a really nice day. Jamal doesn't want to go to school. He finds out it's Saturday, so he's like, oh, I feel great. I'm not pretending to be sick anymore. I feel great. I'm going to go outside and play. And his dad basically says, now you got to stay home and watch your baby sister, Polly, who's a tadpole. And she's just kept she's kept in a fishbowl, and that's hilarious. But she eventually sprouts hands. And she has this weird little musical interlude about how she sprouts hands. The last thing I'll say is she ends up getting washed down a bathtub drain. So Jamal has to go and rescue her. It is really kind of funny how this one ends up, because it ends kind of the way it started, with Jamal interacting with the sun in a very funny way. So I would say seek that one out. It's actually pretty funny, but it's second in weirdness to Cat and Milkman. And you could probably make an argument that it was weirder, but I still think it was funnier. It's very strange. There's some very strange stuff that goes on, but it's
okay.
I mean, they don't stop and play like a fake baseball/football game in the middle of the cartoon, which we forgot to mention. But it is a thing. Okay, and then there's Blotto. Blotto is a very different cartoon from any of these other things. It starts off on an artist's desk, and there's some ink that's dripping onto a piece of blotter paper. And that ink forms itself into like this little kind of superheroic looking dude named Blotto. The cool thing that this little cartoon does, it's just a musical episode. So it's 7 minutes, it's all musical. Blotto has his song called like Ink World, about how everything's great in Ink World. They use the same phrases over and over again. They keep repeating a lot of stuff.
Hashtag humble brag.
Yeah.
Settle down, Blotto.
So he's like, my girlfriend's super great, and she thinks ink stinks. And she sings about that for a few minutes. And then there's this supervillain dude in a comic book that wants to steal Blotto's girlfriend. And she's actually super fine with it. So when Blotto goes to rescue her, she's like, no, I don't want to go back with you to fucking Ink World. This place stinks.
Yeah, I'm like,
there's more to the story than that. There's a few more characters that are introduced, but it's strange. And it's just musical. So it's weird. It's like watching one of those old musical interludes that does tell a story. It's just in a very different style. So I would seek that one out too. I don't think it's like series worthy, but as a one-time standalone thing, it's pretty cool. And that's pretty much going to do it for those episodes. However, before we get into our recommendations and reviews, there are some second opinions out there, and we're going to read a couple fantastic ones right now.
Let's get into these second opinions.
Take the first one from Dr. Caps.
Yeah.
Dr. Capslock.
Capslock. All right, so this comes to us from Hancock the Superb. I love everything about this. This guy Hancock's from the U.S. This is July 2002. It says, "What the bleep is this? Even if real kids make the cartoons."
I don't know.
Okay, even if real kids make the cartoons, that doesn't make any of them any better. Butch Hartman apparently has a monopoly over the show, given that he's made at least 3 different ones, 2 of them which, Chalk Zone and Fairly OddParents, have gotten their own equally horrid shows. This show is still running from time to time, while great shows like The Angry Beavers, Mako's Modern Life, and Real Monsters have simply disappeared. Please, Nick, destroy this piece of crap show! 0 stirs.
I would like to point out that I think I heard Mako's Modern Life. I don't know if I had dyslexic ears or not, but I want to watch that instead. I want to watch Mako's. I don't know what Rottern is, but I like it, and I want to watch it. But Hancock the Superb is super angry.
Oh, man.
You know who else is angry?
Who?
Dudus from PA. Dudus. Or Dutus. Dudus.
This sounds like a character from Gwar.
Dudus, it might be.
Dudus.
This was also from February 2002, and as an editor's note here, drink every time I say cartoon.
Do it.
There's going to be a lot of them. This is called Stick with What a Cartoon Show instead, drink. I prefer the What a Cartoon Show over this garbage. Unlike the What a Cartoon Show's cartoons, oh yeah, cartoons are stupid and extremely lame. This show introduces us to the Fairly OddParents, which unfortunately became a series, and a bad one at that. I recommend the What a Cartoon Show over this any day. Dudus.
Dudus.
There were only about 6 reviews on the IMDb page, they were pretty much split. There were ones like these, and then there were a couple that were like, guys, listen up. Like, What a Cartoon Show was first. This came second, and they were kind of doing the same thing. So it's just a different take and a different style.
Yeah, guys.
But, there's only 6 people out there who cared enough, well, add 2 with me and Sean to do a review of this thing. But what do you think about it, buddy? Do you recommend it to people out there? And if not, does it get the dip?
I would recommend this. I would recommend this. I thought that with the caveat of saying that, as we mentioned in this episode, it's probably going to be like a 2 out of 3 scenario where I'd be amazed if I sat down and watched one of these shows and I loved all 3 segments. That's sort of the point of having these cartoons, is that a couple of them might not be for everybody, but I think that there was enough variety. I think especially within the first cartoon that we watched tonight, with the F-Tails, and even 25 Cent Trouble, which I want to be your new nickname, Dave.
I'm fine with that.
It should be 25 Cent
That's
Trouble.
pretty much what I'm worth these days, so I'm okay with that.
Okay. And so we're booming with confidence over here on this show.
Starting the year off right.
2017, you're worse than 2016.
Hey man, it's better than fraction
which we
of
all thought would be impossible.
Fraction of a penny 2016.
Yeah.
Trouble.
Handful of chiclets trouble.
Delicious.
And so I think that there's a lot of good things that are on this show. I would say enter into it with the idea that it's not going to be for everybody, and that not every 8-minute clip is going to be your cup of tea. But if you start out with something like Cat and Milkman, where you're not 100% interested in it, just pass on it. So still, I'm so curious why there's so much hate for Fairly OddParents and Chalk Zone. I didn't think Chalk Zone was that bad, and I've enjoyed the Fairly OddParents. I'm a fan, so it's just a lot of internet hate getting thrown
for whatever
around
reason.
here, so.
People just I don't know. I'll never be able to answer that question. It's just people. But as for me,
what did you think,
as for
Dave?
me, I'd say the same as you. I'd recommend it, but know what you're getting into. Know that it's a variety show. Know that similar to Kablam, you might find 1 out of the 3 things that you like, maybe 2 if you're lucky, 3. So just know that you're getting into that. The cool thing about the internet is now you can search out these individual shorts and segments, and you can find them that way too. So if you know specific ones you want, or if you just want to take, Russian roulette, just see what you get, you can do that as well. And you've got 100 episodes to choose from and 54 different characters. So that's kind of cool. I like the fact that there's a lot of variety. I like the fact that they were given the chance to take chances and be creative and be free with it, and not have to worry about, we have a series order, we have to hit these numbers or whatever. It was just do this thing. If it's weird, who cares? If it's successful, then great. But just do the thing and be creative with it. And we don't really do that a lot anymore. So I really like the fact that they did that. So doesn't get the dip. I'd say seek it out. It's an interesting Nicktoon, but a rewarding one. One for the more artsy folk out there, I'd say.
Yeah. Oh man, kicking off 2017 with New Year's Nicktoons on an artsy note.
So what do you have going on in the next couple of weeks?
Guys, I've got a bunch of shows with Washington Improv Theater in the DC area. You can find and check out tickets witdc.org. And as always, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sean Paul Ellis.
And you can find me on Twitter at Dr. Claw MD. You can also find me over at collider.com and nerdist.com. If you're looking for more on this particular show, you can find us at our website, SaturdayMorningCartoons.com. Remember, that's morning with a U. You can also find us on Twitter at MorningToons. Check out Sean's handiwork on our Instagram page. Keep the conversation going on Facebook, and take a listen and like us through YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. As always, you can send us any requests or contact info or whatever that you want to send us through email, SaturdayMorningCartoons@gmail.com. Guess what? Still New Year's Nicktoons. We've got a jam-packed month because we actually have 5 weeks in this month. So we get to deliver 5 New Year's Nicktoons. What do we got coming up next week?
We've got the smashing Wild Thornberries.
This is really, of all of these, the only one that I remember pretty solidly.
Really? Because I remember the last 2 at the end of the month. I really don't remember these next 2 weeks.
I'll carry us through, and you bring us home.
How
does that sound?
We can ET it, and then we'll reverse ET it.
Yeah, and then we'll roll around in stamps.
Oh my! I'm never gonna get rid of it.
I can't wait. Oh, I do it in the nude. I don't know if I mentioned that. Nude stamp rolling. It's the new trend.
A lot of stamps.
They're forever stamps.
Oh,
and they don't come off easily.
It's forever stuck in my fucking head now, Dave.
So forever stuck to my sensitive part.
Oh boy, you censored yourself.
I did. I looked to the side to make sure our censors were okay. Sponsored by Stamps.com. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us for this first installment of 2017 New Year's Nicktoons. We will see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Hey, everybody. Thanks a lot for listening to Saturday Morning Cartoons. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to transform and roll out.